Hi, welcome to New Beginnings 222. This is the first of many videos that are going to begin to stream on YouTube, and they will be available for your access and your hopeful pleasure, and mostly your education. And hopefully, it will help you and enhance you and move you along and bring some guidance to you so that you can advance. Maybe you're not even aware that you need to advance, but I know you are aware that you want to advance. And I know that the people that are watching my videos are going to be drawn because I believe in the law of attraction. And in fact, have recently become very, very, very involved in the law of attraction. In fact, the law of attraction has always been involved in my life, but I was not in sync with the law of attraction, did not understand the law of attraction. And although we all live by the law of attraction, even unawares to ourselves, uh, even if we have no knowledge of that, everything that we have in life we attract to ourselves. Now, a long time ago, if you would have told me what I just told you right there, I would have probably wanted to punch you in the nose. Uh, I've heard different people in my life make that statement. I've read it in books, I've heard it in speeches. You are where you are because of the choices that you've made. And I always would argue that and actually become a little bit furious on the inside about that. And I'm sure some of you may be able to relate to me, because I would say to myself, I did not choose this life. I did not choose to work hard labor. I did not choose in the setting or arena that I was born into. I did not choose to be poor. I did not choose to come into this world struggling. I did not choose to come into this world of suffering. If I would have had a choice, I would have chose ease, pleasure, wealth, so many things, athletic abilities, gifts. I would have chose many things, so I would fight that. But to get back to my point, New Beginnings 222, let me first introduce myself. My name is Lawrence Cody Bell, and that name actually holds significance. I learned recently that there is numerical value, that numerology is an existing force, and that we are actually pinpointed, predestined, if you will. And part of that is linked to our name, believe it or not, and our date of birth. And I'm not going to get into all that because that's not really my field of knowledge. I just accessed it and believed it because it was very revealing to me and very evident to me that everything that was brought forth through my numerology report was very, very astounding and very accurate. So I would suggest and advise anyone who wants to look into that method and increase your faith, I guess you would say, in the process of your life and why you are here and your connection to source energy. I would strongly advise you to go ahead and get that report and see how it lines up to you. I will say on that note that my wife Gina, who I have been married to for 33 years, also took the numerology report study, and it didn't come out to be quite what we expected, although there was certain things that did line up very directly. For one, that she's a beautiful woman and that she takes care of herself, which is true, and who could know that by numerical numbers? There's no way that you could put in your name and your date of birth and someone be able to create a hoax and say that you are beautiful and that you take care of yourself and hit the nail right on the head, because you could be not so beautiful, maybe 100 pounds overweight and quite ugly, and Therefore, if they missed it that far off, it would be a hoax. But some of the things in there that were brought out on her numerology report, I think now that I think back on it, are probably true. She just hasn't arrived to the understanding of that yet. She hasn't come into the full knowledge and grown into what she actually is and what she can be. So that's my take on that, because mine, as I read it, it just floored me. I am a very aware person. I'm a person who pays close attention to my inner feelings and people's feelings, and I'm very intuitive that way, which is all in my numerology report. And therefore, my antennas were out, my receptors were out, my thinking way and the way that I analyze and try to discover and figure life out pretty much works along those lines anyway. So I'm very in tune to myself, my feelings, my emotions. Oh, I was born in 1964, December 2nd. I'm 53 years old. I was married in 1983 to the same woman. We had our first child in 1983, which tells you something. In fact, she was pregnant before we decided to get married. So I was 17 years old when she got pregnant. We were young, and we made things work. We struggled our way through, let's say. Not all struggle. Some of it was good. A lot of it was good. But I am also a person who holds high expectation and perfectionist. Maybe some of you are as well. Nothing ever quite meets my level of expectation or the way I think things should work. So therefore, I find myself down in the dumps a lot, because the way I see things and the way things turn out don't usually match up. So we had 2 girls and 2 boys. And we live in a small town of West Unity, Ohio. We were both from Bryan, Ohio, which is a neighboring town. And then we moved to West Unity. And we have lived here the better portion of our marriage. I'm a construction laborer. I've always worked with my hands, always labored with my hands, which was all in my numerology report, that I am good with my hands. But I'll confess to you that I do not love it. And I do not see that as my life mission. I see that as my creative, there's creative value there. And it is something that I am good at. I can come up with ideas that are out of the box, outside of the norm, outside of this standard. And I love to do things creatively that way. If I have to do things according to the standard, I can't stand it. I do not like boxed. I do not like having to fit into a certain mold. I am very into independence and freedom. And hopefully most of you that are watching this will feel that same energetic pull, because that's really what 222 is about, is new beginnings, to draw us out of the norm, the way things function in what many would call the matrix. It's an illusion. I know many of you probably wonder consistently, what is the point of all this? Why do I consistently, day after day, go through the motions of going to work, fulfilling my role? I really believe that this is why families separate, people divorce, people don't stay together, relationships dissolve, is really truly from boredom and not understanding the purpose of life. I'm a very emotional person, as I've said, and one of my high emotions is anger. Anger is something that I have wrestled with all my life. And anger is not a good thing. You can find all kinds of excuses and all kinds of reasons why anger is okay. You can say it's because, that's how I stand up for myself, that's how I defend myself, really it's a way of control, and it's a way of trying to control matters that you have no control over. If you have ever been involved with any sort of substance abuse, they will tell you these things, that anger really a lot of times leads you to substance abuse. It can be inner anger, it doesn't always have to be volatile or outward. Inner anger, inner turmoil. You can be hot, red hot on the inside, and on the outside maybe not pervade that as much. But with me, it's pretty evident. My vibes emulate out, and I even, for a good portion of my life, people would call me Scary Larry. And I could never really see that, but I pervade that sort of intimidation, I guess, with people. There's an intensity to me that tends to make people of a lower vibration, or I should say maybe a higher vibration. The lower vibration is actually anger. It doesn't resonate with them, and can be a tumultuous and fearful feeling to be around a person like that. Now, I am not consistently like that. That is an emotion that rises up out of me. But what I wanted to get into was, how did I get into making videos? It was really a very short time ago that revelations came to me. I am a very spiritual person, but I don't like bull crap. I don't like BS. Okay, I even had a window company that I named No Bull, because I do not like smoke and mirrors. I like truth, and I like evidence, and I like scientific revelation. I am a bit of a mystic, but everything has to be proven, everything has to be analyzed, everything has to be brought forth in a way that is not frosted over and words used consistently to convey something that's not a reality. Prayer is one of those. People use the term that they pray. I'll pray for you, I'll pray for this, but that's a real stinker for me, because prayer should bring results. And many, 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 more than not times, prayer itself does not bring results. And I'm not going to get into all that. That's just an analogy. About a year ago, I began to see the number 66. Okay? Had no idea that I was seeing the number at the time that you're seeing the number. It's just a number. How that came about is we were on a trip where we had went to see my grandson in an archery tournament, and I believe my granddaughter also, in Kentucky. So we were out of state and we were driving. Traffic drives me crazy. I get very, very intense in traffic. I'm a very, very intense competitive driver. I'm constantly looking in my rear view mirrors and looking ahead and watching the sides, because I'm always looking to maneuver in traffic, and I'm looking for circumstances that are ahead and what might be going on behind. So I'm very observant. I never la-ti-da when I'm driving. And because I am that way, I am very competitive in that with other drivers who are not that way. So, as we were on this trip, we left Kentucky, and I ran into some traffic at a detour, in fact. And when we came up on it, I come up on detours all the time, so my first reaction was get off the road, go drive another route, because this was like backing way up. You could see down, as far as you could see, there was traffic backed up, and it was coming onto a main highway. So being the combative driver that I am, and my wife not liking that whatsoever, she was in the car with me, I spun her around and got off onto another lane and got off the exit ramp there and went down another way. And lo and behold, we didn't even go a mile, and there was another detour. Now I'm starting to get a little edgy. So I did some maneuverability and got onto that, went down another way, and I decided I would just use the GPS and allow it to take me, and I would get off on country roads. So I got down on the first country road, and believe it or not, I ran into another traffic detour. Traffic backed up. Now I'm getting volatile. Now I'm getting smoking collar red around the neck. And this is when my wife usually gets freaked out, is when I start to get this way. She's, it's intimidating. So I whipped the car around and I got out of that whole situation, and now I'm using my language. I am speaking in tongues, okay? And they're not good. And so I drive down, and lo and behold, another detoured road, a road closure. Now I am ballistic. Now I am like pounding on shit. I am upset. Okay? I go down one last turn, and traffic was backed up again, and I blew smoke. I mean, literally, I lost my mind in a sense. And I started yelling out to God, because I always argue with God and the outer and the beyond, because I've always felt that it was against me, that the cards were dealt against me, and that something was holding me down. And so I began to say, this is just like the story of my life. This is exactly how my life goes. It's detour after detour. Everything I try my hardest. I try to be competitive. I try to be smart. I try to be on top of things. And every time I make a turn, there's a detour. And I'm like going ballistic. And so at the time, I was taking a substance to calm me down. And my wife got out one of those pills and gave it to me so I could calm the freak down. And from that point on right there, I said to myself, screw it. I don't care. And I didn't use those words. I just said, I don't care. I'm going to get on the highway, and I don't care if we detour and sit there for hours. I'm going to get on the highway. I'm going to set my GPS one course. I'm going to set my cruise control at a certain speed, and we are going to roll, whether it takes us 2 days. And so we got out on the highway, and I always read my GPS as my gauge for how fast I'm going. And so I watched the digital up there instead of watching my gauge on the car. And so we took off. I got it up to a certain speed. I hit the button, cruise control, 66 miles per hour. 66 miles per hour is where I set it. And from there on, it was 66 miles per hour the rest of the way home. Okay? So here's the thing. From that point on, unbeknownst to me, I began to see the number 66 everywhere. 66 popped up constantly. Whether it was 66 cents was my change, whether it was 66 again. One of the things was I drove a 2000 box truck, which had, a later, older speedometer on it and what have you. So I'd always follow my GPS. And it did not have cruise control, and so I would just drive. And you know how you get into when you're driving, and you just you kind of get into traffic, and you're just rolling with the traffic or what have you. And I would continually find myself going into the mode of 66. Like I would just be driving along, driving with traffic or whatever, and I would look up, and it would be 66. And that in itself happened many, many, many times, but there was so many times that I would see the number 66. And it was a little bit odd, but I didn't really put a lot of thought into it. About halfway through the year, I began to see another set of numbers, and it was in twos. It was a numerical version of twos. I would see 222 or 2222 over and over and over again, and I can't remember exactly how I started seeing it. I just started noticing that I'd see it, whether it was gas prices, whether it was cigarette carton prices, whether it was a sign, whether it was a license plate, whether it was change. I would just begin to see 222 being revealed to me, or 2222. And so I took that in. And even like my partner that would ride with me in the truck, I would say to him, "There's that number again." And he wasn't a real talking type of a person, so we didn't communicate a lot. But just every once in a while, when I'd see it, I'd say, "There's that number again." And so it began to be very much a part of my conscious awareness that I would see that number. So one day I was sitting at the computer and I began to pay my bills, and it was in the morning, and this number was starting to bother me, this 22 number. It was starting to bother me, and I pulled out my checkbook to write a check, and I looked up, and the numbers were 2222. And at that point, it was just like, okay, that's it. I've got to know. I have to know what this means. And so I just Googled it. I picked up my phone, and I spoke into my phone, and I said, what does it mean when you see the numbers 222 or 2222? And up came the message that this was an angelic message from the angels speaking specifically to me that this was a time of new beginnings. And I got so excited about that I actually took and printed that off and put it in a frame because it just thrilled me. It just blew me away that there was an outer force that was actually reaching out to me. And it was very exciting for me. But at that moment, I thought of 66, and I thought to myself, well, if 2222 or 222 means something, then what does 66 mean? And so I did the same thing. I Googled that, and it pulled up the number 66, and it was the number of benevolence and love from the universe to me. It was a message that was saying that the angels were letting me know that I was loved and that I was cared for, and that I should put my trust in the universe for supply, and I should balance my physical life, and I should balance my material life and my spiritual life. And it just blew me away. I got so excited about that. So, when that revelation came to me, I believe it was October of 2016, so it was not very long ago that this happened. I was flipping through, it could have been a little bit before that, but I was flipping through stations, looking through Netflix, because I like to stream Netflix, and I was really on this cycle of binging, all kinds of series. Loved them, Sons of Anarchy, Breaking Bad, and I would just, binge on those. But I was flipping through, and I seen a video or whatever it was that came up, and it was I can't remember what it was, Sick but Almost Dead, or Nearly Sick but Almost Dead, Not Quite Dead, or something like that. Anyway, it was about this guy that juices, Joe Cross. He's a juicer, and so I watched that whole thing, and I got really excited about thinking about what he was talking about, because I was feeling miserable. I was feeling like really horrible. Like, I was literally starting to think, I'm only 50 years old and I feel like an old man. I feel like I'm decrepit. My body ached. I couldn't, get up off the couch. I was overweight. I felt like a slob. I felt like crap. And so I watched that, and I started juicing. And I really wasn't putting it together, the combination, or the combining thought of the message of 66 and me getting on that juice diet. But I did it anyway. And I began to feel, over a very short period of time, as I cut everything out and stopped eating anything that would be considered junk food, mass-produced food. I was a big candy freak, love sugar. Cut everything out and just began to juice and eat all natural. And that, I have to say, was the beginning of miracles for me. That set me on a path. And so from there, things begin to unfold. And I'm not going to get into the whole story of that, because It's a long story, but I just want you to understand that one of the things that I got into was this whole thought of the law of attraction. I've read about stuff before in my past. I'm a reader, I'm into things. Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer, have all been in my past. I've read things about luck and tried to figure out why things were the way they were, and I would always talk about luck in my story in my life as I would talk to people, particularly my wife, and complain about things. And I always had this idea that you were dealt this hand, and the hand that you were dealt is what you were screwed with. And some people get dealt the great hand and they get to play it out, and it's wonderful for them, and their life is hunky-dory, and they get all the gifts and all the knowledge and all the talent, and everything just falls into place for them. And then other people get dealt this crappy hand, and they have to plug their way through and try to make it, and it's frustrating, aggravating, and full of complaints. But the law of attraction doesn't quite pan out that way. The law of attraction teaches you that it's actually by your thoughts and your intentions and your feelings that you bring about your existence. So as I begin to really look into that with the help of my angel guidance, which continues to this day, the numerical numbers continue constantly, I begin to understand that really my pattern in my life really started from way, 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 way back, and my subconscious mind had really literally built my life for me. And so I'm going to get into it with some other videos of how I went about with my new beginnings. One of those was through hypnosis, which I self-hypnotized myself over the internet using video, YouTube videos. And there's very, very, it's very, very deep, but it's something that I am very practical about. I do not go for fluff. Let me just throw this out there. I have been through a complete building of a religious concept, which many of you are probably on the same plane as I am or was. That whole theme of religion was part of the concept that I had in my mind that was literally restraining me. It's a very, very, very fear-based concept. Okay, I was very, very, very into that and understood the book behind that, very thoroughly studied that for a good portion of my life and put some years into that, trying to understand that entire thing. And it set me back in some ways that I really am not going to go into, but I am a very spiritual person. I am a very seeking person. But I have to have things prove themselves out in a practical way. And I do not like frosting over and making things sound like they work. There has to be valuable, applicable evidence that they work. And so when I got enthralled by this whole idea about numbers is when I decided to open myself up very much again spiritually, but I did not want to gravitate toward another religious concept. I did not want to involve myself in a religious theme, a philosophy again, and make a new religion for myself. And so perhaps you feel the same way, that there's a song, Losing My Religion. I don't want more religion. I've had enough of that. I want spirituality on the deepest level. I want the connection between source energy and myself to be very real and very plain spoken. And so I will try to lead you or help you or guide you. I don't know, I'm not a guru. I maybe will just share my experience, and you can have relatability to what I'm talking about. And perhaps on this journey of new beginnings that I'm on, which this is all part of it, perhaps you can also be inspired, or you can inspire me, and we can take this journey together, and we can build the life that we want, and we can live in the existence that we want to create, and we can co-create and coexist with source energy and the intelligent mind, the parent mind, and we can reveal what it is that we need to reveal, what our purpose is in life. We can bring out into exposure and touch lives and make a difference in a very practical way that will bring us freedom, personal freedom, will bring us material things, to get away from the plane of being subject to an hourly wage or that whole concept of working to make ends meet. But without getting into all that, I just invite you to follow me as I begin to take this journey and make more videos about the things that I have seen on my journey, the way that I understand them, and the way that I filter them through my vision, through my understanding. So let's go on this journey together and let's make a difference. Thank you.